Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival Volume 6. We have a great discussion lined up today about the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival, not just about the edition right now, but the history and the people behind the festival. Let me start with introducing you to who's here on the panel today. We have Amita Desai, who is the director of the Goethe Zentrum and also the honorary counsel for the German embassy. We have Salil Kader, who is who's from the public diplomacy section of the U.S. consulate. We have Nuria, who is the program coordinator for the Goethe Zentrum. We've got Gautam Rao, who is from the 53 EXP, the people who are managing the festival this year for us, and we've got Sakshi Chaturvedi from Basquiat Entertainment, who's also a part of the team. So, guys, to begin with, I wanted to understand, and from you, Amita ma'am, I wanted to understand how did this journey start? Because I understand the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival was initiated by the Goethe Centrum and by you specifically. So, how did the journey start?
That's a lovely question. We have this biannual. So when we say sixth, we've already done a decade of the festival. And Salil and I were thinking about it, and we said, okay, so when did it all begin? And so it began quite informally. The Americans brought music, the French brought music, the Germans brought music. So we said, well, why don't we bring it together? And I think that was probably how it began, where we said, okay, can we all bring it together on a given day? And of course, whatever else we're doing, we continue to do. So perhaps that's where the beginnings were. And there was the Alliance Française, there was the US Cultural Center, there was the Goethe Zentrum, the Hyderabad Western Music Foundation used to exist then. The whole purpose was to bring music lovers and music groups and musicians together at the same platform. So this began about a dozen years ago, and it's been joyous since.
Amazing. So, if I were to ask, you weren't part of the festival right from the first edition. When was the first edition? I mean, just to
Okay, so I have to do
refresh
some
our
mathematics,
memories.
but I think it must have been 2017 or 15, 2015. 2015 is when we had the first edition.
Wow. So we're a decade, almost a decade into the Hyderabad International Jazz
Yeah,
Festival.
that's right. So it must have been sooner than that actually. Because if it is 15 and this is the sixth edition, 10 साल तो हो गए हैं. Yeah, so 2013 maybe.
So how is it the sixth edition? I mean, since we've been doing it from almost a decade ago, why are we calling it the sixth edition? Shouldn't it be volume
It is
10?
volume 6.
Volume 6, yeah. We're calling it the volume 6. But the way, I don't think when we started off, we did not think of it as being multi-edition festivals. It was the International Hyderabad Jazz Festival, right? That's how it started. That okay, it's the jazz festival. We really don't have a festival. That's how the idea came. And as Amita said, um, as part of the U.S. consulate's public diplomacy team, we would from time to time bring in jazz bands. And why jazz? Why America? Because jazz is quintessentially American. It has emerged from the boroughs of various cities in the U.S. It has a deep cultural rooting in the history of the U.S. So we would bring American bands, and so the idea was, since we are bringing in these bands and we're all trying to drive in an audience and connect with them, why not do it as a festival? And that was the idea, and actually came from Amita, that why don't we do this together? And so when we did that festival, we did not think that we would be sitting here in 2024 and talking about the sixth edition or the sixth volume of the festival. The festival has just evolved, but we did that, and we tried to see if we could bring in bands at the same time, and that's how the first festival happened. And it happened so far back that now I'm trying to really recall which was it 2013, was it 2015, but clearly this is the sixth time that we are hosting it, and we've done it through various challenges also, and we can keep talking about those challenges as we go.
We'll get to the challenges because that's something that I really want to talk about and understand. Gautam, you have been part of the city's cultural landscape as important as we've got these government entities, but you as an individual and also professionally has been such an important part of the cultural landscape to Hyderabad. I know you will deny it, but how has your understanding of the festival been, and your involvement also of the festival been? Like, when did you get involved with the festival, and also, of course, something like an international jazz festival in Hyderabad. As a person just attending to being a person from the entertainment industry, what has your perspective been about HIJF, as we would like to call it?
So personally, I got involved in the fourth edition, where I worked with Salil and the US consulate to get a band for the fourth edition. This year, personally, it's really gratifying to be a part of a jazz festival that's representing the city, and it's unique because I don't know how many jazz festivals are there in the country, and for Hyderabad to have its own recurring edition is something really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a very important point that you spoke, that we haven't really heard of a city-based jazz festival as such in India. Apart from, like, you have the Mahindra festival, but which is more of a blues festival than a jazz festival. So, city-centric jazz festival, there must be a few of them.
Which invites international artists.
Yeah,
So
and like
that's
an
a very
international
unique
jazz
offering.
festival, I think it's a very unique offering. And coming to the part where putting all of this together, I think Nuria, you're an important part of that aspect. So when you first heard of you guys doing this, what was your initial reaction? I mean, of course, from oh my god, another project to work on. But apart from that, like, what was your reaction when it came to like the International
Right.
Jazz Festival?
So in my experience, I never really, like everyone said, a recurring jazz festival doesn't really happen in India. I've moved from Bombay, and neither there or here would you expect that a city would absorb a genre like jazz so repeatedly. You have a few good jazz names that float around, and they have their own concerts. But to have people flown in internationally, especially just for a recurring jazz festival, is something that I thought was very unique and very exciting to work on, because it exposes the city to so many new aspects of jazz, which is considered to be very, lift mein jazz bajta hai types. It's not considered something that people enjoy, but the city has really accepted it. And last year was the first edition where I worked on, and I did not expect the crowds that I saw. It was very, very satisfying to see that, and very fulfilling when you're working on it, to see the city accept it so wholeheartedly.
So, Sakshi, you run an agency called Baskia Entertainment, and you've been doing events in Hyderabad for a while as well. What is your, and also you moved to Hyderabad a couple of years ago, and your understanding of the city. Like a lot of us, because a lot of us have moved on the panel, apart from Gautam, have moved to the city from another place.
Salil also he's moved from Sainikpuri to the city.
Okay, so that makes it about 20% pure Hyderabadi, and it's still 80%, I'm guessing, Amita, which is still not from Hyderabad. So, yeah, we have a very healthy combination there. No, so I was asking you, Sakshi, that you've heard of the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival
Yes, I
before, now. And what was your perspective of it? I mean, seeing this happen as an attendee, and also as, again, a person who's new into the entertainment business in Hyderabad.
So yes, I moved here in 2012, and I think around the same time the city was opening up to a lot of live music. And Tabir, you've been an important part of it, and I think Basquiat started at the right time, and the city was inviting a lot of artists from outside. And for me, what is amazing is that techno, Bollywood, all of these are like very mainstream genres of music. We don't have a Bollywood festival, I don't know if that's what you say, or a techno festival which is concentrated in Hyderabad, but we have a jazz festival which is phenomenal. And all thanks to your efforts that you've been doing it over the years, and that brings us to a volume 6 or edition 6 today. And I feel this is a very good time because a lot of youngsters are also taking on to jazz, and I'm very excited about it. And I think doing it at HPS also ties a very important element wherein there are so many people who are alumni of HPS and they are going to be attending. Then the school is a beautiful venue. I think all in all, it's pretty exciting, and I am really glad to be part of it. And I'll do my bit as I've been doing because I love performing arts. Well, we would like to know some fun incidents that we were discussing the other day.
First, tell me, how did HPS come into picture for this
For
edition?
this year, yeah.
So, you know, HPS is a fabulous place. Absolutely. It is central. Yeah. It is beautiful. And I'd heard about the new open air theatre. Yeah. We'd been running Hyderabad Literary Festival, several editions over there. So we know that that place works. Jazz is really also something that is nurtured by a large number of Sikandrabadis. Right. So when we went to other venues, and we should talk about the other venues because each venue was very meaningful, very different, brought very different people together. So we were a little worried of not being close enough to Sikandrabad when we moved to the Knowledge City. And rightfully, it was a different audience. And that is so exciting. So we were at the Sikandrabad Club, one edition. In the earlier days, we used to have 2 days of the festival. We were so ambitious that we would host it for 2 days. I think we did that for 2 editions. And then I think we lost steam. Funding is an issue. So then we came down to a single day. But we were at the Qutub Shahi tombs, we were at the Knowledge City, the Satwa Knowledge City, and this year then HPS, which I think is fabulous. But each edition brought novelty, beauty, and different target audience. Perhaps the most beautiful, and we haven't had the HPS yet, maybe that will change it, but the most iconic was the Qutub Shahi tombs. You know, because, and it was also the first time we premiered that space literally with the jazz festival, and so you had these 2 tombs which lit up at dusk, and then you had the audience. Remember, this was the COVID year still, right. And so we should be still quite happy that we have not had a break despite of COVID. So we were looking at outdoors. And so we have continued with outdoors. And perhaps the Hyderabad Public School kind of fell into place. Yeah. But we were also looking for another place. Right. And so we were looking at various options. And this worked out very well. So very, very happy about it.
It's interesting, isn't it, that everybody calls Hyderabad like, so we're not one of the metros, but every area has its own audience. You know, it's so funny because everybody says, "Oh, Hyderabad choti jagah hai," or you know, they don't consider us to be a metro. They don't consider us to be like as big as a Bombay or a Delhi or even Bangalore for that matter. But whenever, for what I gather from you is that whenever we've done an edition in a particular area, we've had a different crowd specific to that area, and that's such an interesting learning from this. And I think, yeah, I mean, doing it in Sikandrabad is going to definitely. I also think that HPS also has so much of a heritage, you know, as much as not as much as Qutub Shahi tombs will have. That's heritage for centuries, if I may. But but almost the same. Yeah, not as old as the tombs, but old enough. So we are also going to expect a lot of people who have been part of the alumni, people who've brought so much of attention to Hyderabad as well because of their positions across the world, even in the US.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of the top CEOs of uh, multinational corporations that are based in the United States, starting with Microsoft, and just naming one because they have 5 or 6 at this point of time, have been HPS alumni. But Sakshi, since you asked a question about interesting tidbits and you spoke about HPS, the Hyderabad Public School going back to Secunderabad as a venue for the jazz festival itself, I think Hyderabad Public School is an icon for Secunderabad, not just for Hyderabad, but we on the Secunderabad side would claim it because it's on the other side of the bridge. That's the Hyderabad side of Begumpet is, cross the bridge, it's the Hyderabad side. This is still the Secunderabad side. And the Hyderabad Public School, the board, the principal, Dr. Skanbali, the registrar, Colonel Sharma, they were extremely welcoming the moment we wrote to them. And what I would say, with some nostalgia, with some pride, with a little tear in my eye, is the connection that the festival has with HPS goes back to HPS's former music teacher, late Mr. Dennis Powell. He had been a part of the jazz festival right from the very beginning. The Dennis Powell Collective performed at different editions of the festival, and Mr. Powell, God bless his soul, he has been so influential in terms of teaching musicians and generations of students who passed out of the Hyderabad Public School. Now going back to HPS, when he's not here, but going back to HPS and having the jazz festival located within the school, and a brilliant, beautiful open air theatre, I think life has come full circle for the festival itself. And the school's been very, very gracious, really grateful for them for opening their doors. Literally, the gates are all open, the multiple gates are all open, and we are bringing the festival. So very happy that it's coming back to Secunderabad, it is coming back to Hyderabad Public School, and it is the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival.
Lovely. I think also it will be a fitting tribute to Dennis Powell because, a lot of students coming out of HPS, his contribution to their musical journey has been so strong, and his contribution to our musical journey, the festival's musical journey, has been so strong. So yeah, it feels surreal. I mean, I'm almost getting goosebumps right now.
George is his student.
George was part of the Dennis Powell Collective, and now we have him. And George's been, a constant with the festival right from the first edition. And now we have the George Hull Collective opening the festival for us.
Lovely. In fact, we've had a conversation with George, and here is what he had to say about it.
George, you've been part of Hyderabad International Jazz Festival right from the inception.
Yeah.
Please tell us how it came about and what were some of the beautiful venues that you played at.
Yeah.
How has the response been? How has it grown? Tell us everything right from the start, please.
Yeah, so when we first started, the Jazz Festival wasn't so big, but it was always interesting as it's always been with a good mix of bands traveling from abroad and us representing Hyderabad locally.
Yes.
So initially when we started out, we were part of Joe Costa's band a long time ago. That's when the entire band sort of started forming. We are a group of about 8 jazz musicians from Hyderabad. So, and then we progressed into the Dennis Powell Collective, Dennis being a very dear friend of ours and a mentor. So we did that for about 3 editions. I think the most memorable one was at the Qutub Shahi tombs. Yeah, that was one where he was actually not a part of it because he was having a surgery. He had a kidney replacement happening. But he really, sort of built this all up for us, the jazz scene in Hyderabad. So the last year, I think after Dennis passed, the mantle kind of passed on to me, and we started the George Hill Collective. And this is the second time that we'll be performing. This year is going to be interesting because we have a bunch of new kids who are part of the band. We have a 14-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl joining us. There might be a father and son duo thing happening on too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a bunch of new young talent who's never been out here in the scene. So we might have, we are going to have these new kids playing some good music. And we are sort of branching into a different direction in terms of the music too. We're going for some modern sounds, you know, inspired by Robert Glasper, those kinds of tunes which are much more relevant with the times. So it's a new direction that we're taking, and looking forward to it, the entire evolution of jazz scene in Hyderabad. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, were you saying that it wasn't a very big scene when you guys started out, and how has it grown in the last couple of years?
When I say it wasn't a big scene, it's always been in terms of the audience participation. The festivals are always big. The venues have always been big in terms of participation. I think there's a lot more, sort of awareness that's happening now. I have people asking us about the festival from 6 months onwards itself, like when's the next edition going to be. This year is a surprise because usually it's a biennial one, and this year we're having it again because of the Goethezentrum's 20th anniversary, I believe, so we're having a repeat of that. So yeah, so the buzz is a bit harder this year, like good one. So I think we're expecting a lot of crowds.
Bigger venue also.
A bigger venue. I think the venues have been very interesting. Like last year it was at Satwa. I'm like a proper ultra modern space, which we have never been used to playing to. Always played at this nice ancient monument kind of spaces. So it was very interesting. A lot of young crowd, which we had never seen before, happened last year. So this year, I think is going to be fun with a lot of school kids too. So hopefully, so we have had diverse audiences all throughout the year. It's very interesting. Yeah.
So I think it's a very good venue this year because you rightly said that a lot of youngsters will be participating and they will get to experience a jazz festival.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has always been the goal, at least for us. In Hyderabad, the jazz scene is always about educating the younger audience to understand it, because jazz primarily thrives on the audience. The audience needs to be a bit intelligent for them to understand this music, because it's not one of those kinds of scenes where you can just chill on a weekend and just enjoy it while you have a talk. You really need to focus. It's more on the classical side of things. So yeah, now with people traveling, kids listening to music, access to music a bit more easily than it was before. They're much more knowledgeable. They know what they're listening to. So the challenge is on us to entertain them. Try to package it in such a way that it's interesting and still rich. So that's what the challenge is going to be this year. Try to make it relevant to the young audience. There is a lot of buzz. So the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival is sort of in the calendar now in the Indian jazz scene. It's been quietly getting there. Initially, like I said, the buzz wasn't there, but now we have bands from Delhi and Bombay who want to participate, be a part of this calendar. So there is massive interest for it as such. In terms of audience, yes, absolutely. People know that it's a big thing now. And I think it's a part of the Hyderabad calendar now. People kind of expect something to happen on the jazz front. And unfortunately, because most of the jazz gigs usually happen for private audiences, it doesn't happen mainstream like most other bands do. So they don't usually get to watch us play, as easily as they watch regional bands and other pop bands, cover most of the time. So this is a place where anybody can just walk in. It's free, and then they have access to some world-class bands coming and playing together. So yeah, I think this is the best thing that could happen to the jazz audience, at least in Hyderabad. I'll probably see it.
Looking forward to your performance.
Thank you.
The George Hull Collective.
Yeah, we're looking forward to entertaining you, and let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we come back. How has the support been from the government of Telangana?
How is the
always-
Telangana government tied into the festival?
Yeah.
Is what we'd like to know.
This takes us back to, so if I can just twist the question a little bit, We call ourselves the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival. Earlier we were the International Hyderabad Jazz Festival. So we were obviously very local. And since the initiators were international, so my institution, the German Cultural Center, the Goethe-Zentrum, the US Cultural Affairs, so the Americans, the Alliance Française. So there was an internationalism. We have the Dennis Powell and the George Hull collectives that were always part of it. We wanted to bring in the national flavor. So there was one band that was from elsewhere. So we were kind of toying with the idea of how this would take shape. And that's where the government comes in. Because we were looking at spaces. I think Durgam Cheruvu was once where we had Qutub Shahi tombs could not have happened without the government giving us not only that space, but it was still a space in the making. Remember, we opened it, and there were many things that were not in place yet because it was still being refurbished. So we had government come in as and when. And the international institutions in any case, and we work very closely. As international institutions, we work very, very closely with them. There are lots of people from the government who are constant features at the festivals. You will see some of them always, you know, find time and join us for Jayesh Ranjan is one of them. I think he's one of the few who has done every edition with us. So these are some of the anecdotes that we carry with us. But just the fact that we were not sure what we were, and that, as Salil said, we did not know where we were going to have next editions, and so on. It was quite a journey. But we must also bring in the fact that the Swiss have played with us. The Italians have played with us, of course the Americans, of course the Germans, the French, we have Dutch group this time. So there has been, this word has gone around. People write to us. We already have, for the next festival, 3 bands in waiting, international bands in waiting. So this is quite exciting that Hyderabad has already begun to make its mark. And that cannot be without the local support as well.
Absolutely. I think, Sakshi, you had a conversation with Mr. Jayesh Ranjan.
Yes.
And how did that go? What was his, you know?
So he mentioned how I've always wondered, you know, he's a chief secretary for industries and commerce and IT. And then I see him do a lot of work in art and culture space. So only after this conversation, it kind of, you know, he very nicely put it across. Like there are a lot of international companies that are coming to Hyderabad, and for the new age professionals, work-life balance is key. So while they're here for work, what do they do to engage with their own culture? And as a city, we are providing with them with so many activities in terms of, like we said, jazz festival. If there is a band which is based out of their country is coming to India to perform in Hyderabad, and then the French can engage, the German people can engage. All these people, they feel at home. And this is how Hyderabad is doing its bit to accommodate and to make the international audience or visitors and workforce at home. So
no
he
more,
explained that bit.
Okay, so no spoiler alerts because we have the conversation recorded, and this is what Mr. Jayesh
You should
Ranjan
hear
had to
it from him rather
Yeah.
than me trying to condense the conversation. So,
Of
yeah.
course.
Hi, we are here at the Central Secretariat to interview Sir Jayesh Ranjan, who is the Special Chief Secretary of the Industries and Commerce and IT. We all know that he's made great contribution towards the art and cultural landscape of the city. So we had to come here to speak to him about the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival. So my first question is, what drew you to support Hyderabad International Jazz Festival? Was it about jazz itself, or is it something about the way it aligns with the city's cultural vibe?
Yeah. So both of it actually. See, it is like this. Some years ago, when we started realizing that Hyderabad is becoming a very attractive destination for companies, for professionals, for technology firms, for firms from other sector to set up their units here, their technology centers here. We felt that we should now start positioning the city as not just a great place to work, but also a great place to live. And I'm sure everyone knows this, that work-life balance is something which really drives new age professionals to a particular destination.
Right.
There can be great salary, there can be great work kind of career opportunities, career advancement opportunities, but people see beyond all that. That is important, no doubt. But how does the city engage them? What kind of recreations, what kind of passions, what kind of hobbies, what kind of entertainment, what kind of de-stressing opportunities or pathways are available? These are also very important. So some years ago we started a program, an organized structured program on behalf of the government, which is called Happening Hyderabad.
Nice.
So the idea was that there are 52 weeks in a year. So the idea was to ensure that every week there is something or the other across different ranges of recreation and activity. So it could be music, it could be arts, it could be theatre, it could be films, it could be stand-up comedy, it could be sports. So cutting across different kinds of interests.
Right.
The idea was to create a structured program in which event organizers, event managers, people who seek some sponsorship support, people who want some visibility of their event, everyone gets support through this platform. So it ran very well. But then due to COVID, there was some pushback. So for almost 2.5 years, we were not able to sustain that campaign. But now that everything is back to normal and Hyderabad again has picked that momentum of getting more and more businesses come our way, we have restarted this campaign, and therefore it is very important to support this kind of an event like the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival. But secondly, while one interest of course is slightly selfish, that having these kind of events will make the city attractive, more businesses will come, economy will grow, more jobs will be created. But the second point which you alluded to, that it also adds to the cultural vibe, the cultural landscape of the city, that is also very important. And Hyderabad, as we all know, is a very multicultural kind of place. We have people who speak Urdu here, we have people who speak Telugu here, and then we have people who speak various other languages who have come and started living in Hyderabad. Some have been living here for generations altogether. People from, let us say, Rajasthan or Uttar Pradesh or Punjab and elsewhere. And of course, the new age kind of immigrants who have started working in Hyderabad over the last maybe 10 years, 20 years or so. So we also want to diversify the range of activities which Hyderabad should be known for. And jazz, of course, is a very important component. It's a perennial favorite. I mean, generations of people have grown listening to jazz, and I see lots of interest in the younger generation also in jazz. So that's also a reason to provide more variety to our cultural landscape.
Right. So this initiative by Goethe Centrum and US Consulate, what kind of support is Telangana government providing for the festival?
Yeah, so one big support which we provide is with the venue itself. So last year, many of the participants would recall, it was held in the Salarpuria Knowledge City.
Yes.
So it's an IT park, but we kind of allowed them to conduct this event and do it in a very organized, in a very kind of a visitor friendly manner, so that there's no challenges related to, let's say, parking or food or beverages or washrooms and stuff like that. So it was done in a very nice way. People had appreciated. And of course we do publicize this event on all our websites, tourism, through press, etc., and whatever assistance is required in terms of approvals, permissions, we try to make it happen in a very organized and seamless way. You don't have to struggle or run around for approvals and permissions, etc. So we do help in whichever way help is required.
So venue, logistics, and getting the permissions and the right kind of visibility for the event.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. We're good, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So, yeah.
Okay, I wanted to come to the most important part, Nuria, is that what are the challenges that you face putting this festival together? I mean, all of you, but then, I know Nuria is at the hem of it, and, she's taking all the hits, of all the challenges first until it comes to you guys. What has been the challenge, in putting the festival together last year?
Thankfully, one would think that bringing the international band would be a challenge, but thankfully that has been quite easy for us. We've had, like we said, proposals lined up. So that has been a very joyous experience to have people want to come to Hyderabad, people choosing to come. One thing, while we've had it at different venues, like I said, I was not expecting the crowd. So challenge is to find a good venue that accommodates, the crowds and gives it a good experience where we can have the music and the acoustics that reach the people the way it is supposed to reach.
That's it. That's it. What
I
do
think
you
that's where
guys
Gautam also
have?
comes into
Yeah.
play. It's such a important, like the whole production and execution of the event.
Yeah, so as a country, and I really shouldn't be saying it, but the audience and the spectator experience is possibly the last thing on organizers' minds. They just think they'll get a crowd and they'll get a crowd, irrespective of the experience. Right. So here, it's really key, and we have a great venue, and all the support that we're getting from the school to ensure that entry, exit, food, water, toilets, all these are taken care of. It's not just the experience of coming and listening to some great bands, but it's a good experience overall, which isn't really there when you visit some of the other, let's say, sporting events or entertainment events. There's always, there are things lacking. But this time around, I'm sure, and we're taking all the pains of making sure that and planning everything out so that people who come for the festival not only listen to great music, but also have a great experience as well. You've got a fantastic venue. It's December. The weather's going to be great.
That's
It's open
best
air.
part.
Great music, and come and have a great time.
Yeah, that usually happens, especially so you have a great experience when you go to a private event, right? Like this is supported by private entities. But every time we go through a government-funded event, it's usually something that you're always desiring for more. And I think this is where somebody like you, with your experience, brings so much to the table, where you're able to give that experience, the quality of experience. I think the conversations that we've been having about whatever is going to be put together, I think it's going to be an exciting edition, because the output is going to be interesting. Also, we're really excited about are the bands this year. We have a very interesting lineup of bands. Let's talk about them, because first we have Maelstrom, which is such a different form of jazz. I think it's in such a even more modern, the best modern form of jazz I've seen, with a lot of heavy riffs, but beautifully arranged jazz composition. How did Maelstrom get on board?
It was Maelstrom was one of the many who wanted to kind of just come to Hyderabad, and that was so heartwarming. That's what Nuria was saying, that Hyderabad has made its name. We didn't know. I mean, Salil, when we started this, there were many groups, and we'd write to them and we'd invite them, but we have not had this where people are literally this, and they're pushing us for 27. Can you 26? Can you confirm it now, kind of a thing. So Maelstrom was one of that group who was very keen to come, and German jazz as opposed to American jazz, which is so much livelier and so much involving and engaging, can be very cerebral. Right. That's the nature of Germans. Take it films, take it whatever. It is cerebral. There is an undertone. There are silences as important as the actual movement. So this is they do represent the classics in the best form. So we have to remember that that's the background that they come from. In fact, each jazz player is actually trained to be a classical musician in Germany, and this is something very particular and peculiar about the German jazz musicians. So they bring that with them, and then to have these arrangements, which Maelstrom is going to be, is quite unique. It's quite different. It is very different, and then we've had the French who come from the African background as well, or the Americans. I mean, last edition, the Americans just set the stage on fire. I mean, it was. I suppose that's happening again, Salil.
Yeah, well, Native Jazz Quartet, NJQ, they are again such an interesting form of jazz because they bring in the Native American sounds to jazz. How did you discover this band? How did it come together?
So, we at the State Department have a program called the Arts Envoy program, through which we bring in performing artists and others, and they travel across the world. And the idea is, again, this is a public diplomacy event. The idea is to connect with people, but also to represent the United States of America. And every single time we brought in a performing band, we have ensured that there is more to it than just music. This time around too, the Native Jazz Quartet has two members of the band who represent the Native American tribes there. They will be talking about their music. They are bringing in their music into traditional jazz, and so you will see different forms and instruments fusing into traditional jazz. And so not only will they be performing, they will also be speaking about their cultural experiences, and that also is representative of American multiculturalism, American diversity. Talk about issues of inclusion, and it's not just at the festival itself. We will be having them engage with musicians, local musicians, and students. So it's a great opportunity for us to represent American multiculturalism to audiences in India and wherever they're also going to be performing at the Hornbill Festival. They'll be performing in Kolkata. So there are lots of connections, and that is something that we try to do through our Arts on Y programs, which is supported by the US State Department on traveling bands. So really excited about the NJQ being in Hyderabad, and you will see their traditional instruments. Also, you will hear them sing in their local language, and then of course those interesting conversations.
And also, speaking of multiculturalism, we have a band that consists of artists from all over the world. Kacha Mundin. How do we say that? What is the right pronunciation for that? We've all been trying to wrap when they get here. Kacha Mundinho. Yeah. How can we get to know a little bit more about that band? Because they have members from all over.
They have members from all over. Actually, that was quite interesting. We were looking for women jazz performers. In fact, we always had an all-women jazz performing group from Hamburg. That didn't happen. But for those who will come back, next edition, that's what's being planned. So we had this vocalist who's coming along this time. And we reached out to her, and she says, sorry, I can't bring my band, but. And so she introduced us to Kacha Mondino. And interestingly, they all come from very different backgrounds, but two of them happen to be Indian musicians, one of them who lives abroad and the other one who lives here. And then they bring, and that's the beauty of jazz, right? For those of us who have grown up with some amount of jazz, is that you can really bring various flavors together and create a unifying, harmonious music. You talked about the fact that Hyderabad does not really have a Western music culture. But we've been so beautifully surprised each time that the numbers have been growing. So from 250, 300 to now 600, 700, 800 people who are jazz lovers, and that is so heartwarming. And so if you bring in these various internationalisms into play, I think it adds to some more people who will connect better with jazz.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Also, improvisation is so important
Correct.
in jazz, and
Correct.
bringing in all these different elements from different cultures adds to that improvisation part
Yeah,
of jazz. And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's going to be a very interesting edition. Of
I
course, we
think
have
so.
George Hull representing Hyderabad,
Right.
and also hopefully giving a tribute to Mr. Des Powell. Okay, well, I think I just wanted to understand one final thing before we sign up. What has been the best moment in all of these years of the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival? I know the standard answer will be, oh, everything has been best about it, but like something that is stuck to you. It can be funny, it can be surreal, it can be anything that you guys has been an integral part of doing this festival over the years.
I think the unique part of the Hyderabad International Jazz Festival has been that it has evolved, right? That it has not been just this one piece that we started off with. The title has changed, the venues have changed, the formats have changed. Keep in mind that this is a free festival, that is, we do not have a gate fee. Unlike some very large competing events that are happening around the time that we have the International Jazz Festival, which charge thousands of rupees of tickets, and that goes back to venue and what you can provide. With our limited resources, we've sustained with that. So that, I think, is the beauty of the festival, that there are people who are interested who come back and ask us. And the fact that we moved around every single time we sit together and saying the jazz festival is coming up, where should we do it? And so it's a bit of a struggle also, but that's also the challenge of moving the festival around. This is a city's festival. It needn't have one venue, and that it's moved around, and each venue has given us a memory that has stayed, right, from be it at Taj Deccan or the Phoenix Arena or Satwa, which was a very modern venue, and going back 400 plus years at the Qutub Shahi tombs with the domes lit up, the first time the amphitheater, and now this time really looking forward to the Hyderabad Public Schools open air theater. Yeah.
And this year, you've also decided to go digital, right? What was the plan? I mean, I understand, it's to reach out to a larger audience, but so far, the festival did not have a digital representation. Of course, there were a couple of videos online and everything, but now you have a digital identity. So what has been the idea behind that? I mean, was it solely for viewership?
Well, thanks that it was suggested by
Gautam, actually.
by Gautam and all of
It was
you.
always part of the plan, I thought.
It was-
that,
it
we
was-
need to go stay with the times.
We have to. We have to. That's true. Well, every time we've had the festival, and at the end of it, when we say, wow, this happened, we say, oh, but it would have been nice if we had recorded more or digitized it or whatever. So I'm glad we are doing that this time. I'm glad that we are also going to be more organized. I can't say we were not, but I mean, thoda bahut jugaad to hota tha, So this time I think that is coming in, which probably means, and I'm excited about that we are now getting more and more established. I don't think we were sure that this is now an established festival, but the 5th edition onwards, we feel that we may have arrived, with people wanting to be there, for us to have a digitized presence, the logo that is now going to accompany us, which has evolved out of this. I think that's a very fine difference and change. And I'm very excited, not only for this edition, but I hope that the city will continue for decades to come, in this fashion, because it deserves it. It deserves newer experiences, better exposure, and the city is ready. I mean, city has been soaking in from day one.
Yes, we've always received very good support from the audiences. People have spoken about it for months thereafter, after the festival. even with unique venues like the Qutub Shahi Tomb, where you don't imagine like a ghazal night or a qawwali is something that you associate with that kind of venue, but a jazz festival, people coming and actually sitting through. So I guess yes, and we have grown, and at this point, again, 2 years from now, we might be thinking a little differently, but the structure is beginning to emerge. That is this festival. What it does differently is that we've decided that we'll have somebody manage the festival professionally. So why has the digital element? It's not been absent, but it is a lot more organized and structured this time around, and we are taking it to where people are, where the young people are, and said a lot of young people are getting involved. So we try and do that, and not to forget everybody who has been part of this journey, because as I said, one of our biggest challenges, Amita alluded to that, is funds, right? It's difficult. We don't have a huge sponsor for it. It is us, the two governments coming together, and others who have come in. Must mention here Vibrant. They've kept us moving. Vibrant Motors, Mr. Bashir Babu Khan cannot have done the festival over the years without their support. It's an open hand that he has given to us. And I spoke to him a few days ago, and he said, "Do you know we've added more brands to us? So now you have more vehicles to use." Yeah. So that support has been what has built the festival, and here we are, and really looking forward to the future in a more organized, and there is a future that we can see from here now.
Lovely, lovely.
I have a small thought to add to it. While you say that now the structure has begun to evolve, and you said that we've arrived and we are established. So a festival, what it does for the city, first it brings the city together, which it has already done. Second is when a lot of people from the other cities plan their travel because there is a certain festival happening in that city. So I see this, our Hyderabad International Jazz Festival, doing that for Hyderabad, wherein bring people from a Bangalore or a Bombay, travel to Hyderabad during December when the festival is happening. So I see and I feel we are headed in that direction.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, and considering, there's never been something like that in Hyderabad, where you have an annual or a biannual music festival and people plan for it and people look forward to it. And now that bands are looking forward to coming,
Yes.
it's only a matter of time before, music-loving population across the country starts figuring out they need to plan their dates and travel to Hyderabad for a jazz festival. And that's where I think we need to be headed, and I think we're...
I actually, wanted to add something to what Salil said with Vibrant. Is it shows that the festival is a local Hyderabadi festival, right? Because we have people coming forward to us and telling us that, we are there for you.
We're there, we're supporting, and it is, Vibrant is a homegrown brand. I think we're on to the most exciting edition of the festival, this one, with the bands, with the team behind it, with you guys pushing forward for another edition. And on that note, we would like to, thank everybody who's involved in this festival. So on that note, we are going to wrap up, and stay tuned. And I'm just going to...